The moment Karen stepped onto my lawn for the third time that week, clipboard in hand and a smug smile on her face, I knew this wasn't just about rules anymore. It was about control. She claimed to represent the HOA, but no badge, no paperwork, and no authority backed her up. Still, she acted like my property was her personal playground, measuring fences, peering into windows, and leaving violation notices taped to my door like threats. Neighbors watched from behind curtains, whispering, while Karen thrived on the attention. Every encounter escalated, every warning grew louder, and every excuse she made sounded thinner than the last. What she didn't know was that her constant harassment was pushing me toward a solution she would never see coming. It started small. A note about my trash cans, a complaint about parking. Then suddenly, she was accusing me of imaginary violations, insisting I owed fines and demanding access to my backyard. When I refused, she laughed and said the HOA always wins. That laugh stuck with me. It echoed every time she drove by slowly, every time she snapped photos of my house, every time she reminded me she wasn't going anywhere. I tried reasoning with her, showing property records, even contacting the real HOA board. Nothing stopped her. Karen wasn't enforcing rules. She was feeding an obsession. The stress seeped into my daily life. I avoided my own front yard. I timed errands to dodge her patrols. Friends asked why I looked exhausted, and I joked it off, but inside I felt trapped. Then one night, after finding yet another warning stuck to my mailbox, something shifted. Fear turned into resolve. If Karen wanted to play games, I would change the rules, legally, quietly and permanently. I researched local laws, property rights, and surveillance regulations. I spoke to professionals who confirmed what Karen hoped I'd never learn. She had no power here. With that knowledge, an idea formed, not out of revenge, but out of self-defense. An installation that would protect my property, expose harassment, and end her games without a single confrontation. That decision marked the turning point. Instead of reacting emotionally, I began documenting everything. Dates, times, and witnesses, building a timeline Karen could not erase or talk her way out of. Each step I took was calm, deliberate, and grounded in the law. I stopped answering her demands and started preparing for the moment she would finally overstep in a way that mattered. Karen believed persistence would break me. She never imagined it was sharpening my focus and setting the stage for a lesson she would soon be forced to learn. Everything was about to change in ways she could not predict. The installation didn't happen overnight, and that was intentional. I wanted everything done by the book, because Karen thrived on technicalities and intimidation. I started by reinforcing boundaries, both physical and legal. Clear property markers went up, backed by official surveys. No trespassing notices were placed exactly where the law required. Not aggressively, but unmistakably. Each sign was a quiet message. This space was protected, and ignorance would no longer be an excuse. Next came the real upgrade. I installed a comprehensive camera system, professionally mounted and fully compliant with local regulations. It covered entry points, the street, and the areas Karen loved to linger around, without invading anyone else's privacy. The footage was time-stamped, cloud-backed, and impossible to manipulate. For the first time in months, I slept without anxiety. If Karen showed up, the truth would be recorded, not argued. Predictably, she noticed. The first time she saw the cameras, her confidence wavered. She stood at the edge of my driveway, scanning the lenses, adjusting her posture, suddenly aware that her performance had an audience. She still tried to assert authority, still claimed violations, but her tone changed. She was careful now, calculated, and that told me everything I needed to know. Days later, she crossed the line anyway. Karen stepped onto my property, past the signs, and began photographing my backyard fence. This time I didn't confront her. I let the system do its work. The footage captured her clearly ignoring posted warnings, narrating fake violations, and threatening fines she had no power to enforce. It was all there, undeniable and clean. With evidence secured, I filed formal complaints, not emotional rants, but organized reports sent to the real HOA board, local authorities, and a legal advisor. Karen's pattern of behavior unfolded on paper, backed by video, timestamps, and witnesses. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't hers to control. The installation wasn't about spying. It was about accountability. Karen had built her power on fear and ambiguity, and both evaporated under documentation. She had played her game for years unchecked. Now the board was watching, the law was clear, and her moves were limited. What surprised me most was how quickly the pressure shifted. Neighbors who had avoided conflict began sharing their own stories once they knew proof existed. Patterns emerged, timelines aligned, and Karen's reputation unraveled quietly. The installation had done more than protect my home. It gave the community confidence. Silence was replaced with facts, and fear gave way to clarity. Karen was no longer the loudest voice. She was simply the most exposed. Every step forward proved that preparation, not confrontation, was the true victory here. Karen had relied on chaos, but order dismantled her influence completely at last. Karen didn't disappear immediately. Instead, she attempted damage control. Her visits stopped, but emails began circulating, filled with vague warnings and passive-aggressive reminders. The difference now was that no one was intimidated. The HOA board requested a formal meeting, and Karen was asked to explain her actions. For the first time, she wasn't the one asking questions. She was answering them. During the meeting, evidence spoke louder than personality. Video clips played in sequence, showing trespassing, false claims, and harassment. Dates matched complaints from multiple homeowners. Karen interrupted often, insisting she was misunderstood, insisting she was only doing her job. But the job she described didn't exist. Her authority collapsed under simple verification. The board's response was swift and restrained. Karen was formally warned, stripped of any unofficial role she had claimed, and instructed to cease all contact with homeowners immediately. Any further action, they said, would involve legal consequences. Watching her confidence drain in real time was surreal. The woman who once ruled by intimidation now avoided eye contact and packed her papers in silence. After that, the neighborhood changed. People waved again. Conversations returned to normal. The tension that had lingered for years lifted, replaced by a quiet sense of relief. Karen became a topic of past tense, a cautionary story rather than a daily presence. My installation remained, not as a weapon, but as a reminder that boundaries matter. I realized something important in the aftermath. Standing up for yourself doesn't require shouting or revenge. It requires clarity, patience, and proof. Karen had counted on fear and confusion. The moment those were removed, her power vanished. The installation didn't just end her games. It restored my peace. My home felt like mine again. No more waiting, no more watching the street, no more bracing for confrontation. Just normal days, earned through quiet persistence and informed action. In the weeks that followed, I kept everything in place, even when it seemed unnecessary. Protection isn't something you remove the moment danger fades. It's a habit, a mindset. I documented less, relaxed more, and trusted that knowledge was my strongest shield. Neighbors thanked me quietly, some openly, admitting they had felt powerless for years. The truth was, none of us were powerless. We were just uninformed. Once that changed, everything else followed naturally. Karen's story spread beyond our street, not as gossip, but as a lesson. Authority must be verified, rules must be transparent, and respect must be mutual. When any one of those fails, abuse grows. When all are restored, peace follows. I didn't win by overpowering her. I won by understanding the system better than she ever did. That knowledge changed everything for me and my community forever now. Looking back, the situation with Karen feels unreal. Like a storm that passed once the air changed. What stayed with me was not the conflict, but the clarity it brought. I learned that harassment thrives in gray areas. Where people are unsure of their rights and afraid of escalation, the moment light enters those spaces, the behavior loses its footing. The installation itself was simple in concept, but powerful in effect. It wasn't about catching someone in the act. It was about creating an environment where bad behavior could not hide. Once accountability existed, respect followed naturally. Karen didn't reform because she was confronted. She stopped because she was seen. I share this story not to glorify conflict, but to encourage awareness. If someone is harassing your property, your peace, or your time, start with knowledge. Learn the rules. Verify authority. Document everything. Strength doesn't always look loud or aggressive. Sometimes it looks like preparation and patience. My home is quiet now. The cameras blend into the background. The signs remain, but they no longer feel defensive. They feel settled. What once symbolized tension now represents security. Karen moved on, and so did we. Life resumed its ordinary rhythm, which after everything feels extraordinary. The lesson is simple but important. You don't need to win arguments to end harassment. You need facts, boundaries, and the courage to enforce them calmly. When you do, even the loudest troublemakers lose their stage. If you take anything from this experience, let it be this. Your home is not just a structure. It is a space of safety and dignity. Protecting it is not petty, and asserting your rights is not aggressive. People like Karen depend on others shrinking back, hoping discomfort will keep them compliant. The moment you stand informed and steady, that dynamic breaks. I never imagined a single installation could shift an entire situation, but it wasn't the hardware that mattered most. It was the intention behind it. Calm action backed by knowledge changes outcomes. Fear feeds chaos. Confidence, built on facts, restores balance. Today when I walk outside, I don't scan for threats. I noticed the sky, the quiet, the normal sounds of a neighborhood at ease. That peace was earned, not given. And it's something I won't take for granted again. Harassment ends where awareness begins. When you choose understanding over fear, control shifts back to where it belongs. That truth applies everywhere, not just within HOA disputes. Remember, quiet resolve outlasts loud intimidation every single time. This story is proof that ordinary people can reclaim peace without becoming what they oppose by choosing patience, preparation, and lawful action instead in moments of pressure and uncertainty like this one. If you enjoyed watching Karen finally get a reality check, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel for more real HOA and Karen stories, and drop a comment below telling us what you would have done in this situation. Your support helps this channel grow, and your comments keep these stories alive.